Hi Mia, I'm doing shout outs today. Shout out to Mia. Thank you for being here. So I'll be writing your name in the chat. If you want me to shout you out, write your name. Thank you for being here. Oh, thank you for the emojis. I like the little popcorn. Welcome everyone. I'm doing shout outs. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Mira. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to James. Tori. Shout out to Evelyn. Shout out to Amaya. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Zion. Shout out to Hunter. Shout out to Haley. Also leave a like if you like these shout outs. Leave a like. Shout out to Damari. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Carrie. Shout out to Janae. Shout out to Sheldon. Shout out to Kenya. Shout out to Frankie. Shout out to Victoria. Leave a like if you like these shout outs. I hope we can get to 100 likes. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Miles. Shout out to Elsa. Shout out to Denise. Shout out to Kaya. Shout out to Maria. Oh no, I messed up. Shout out to Mohir. Shout out to Margaret. Leave a like if you enjoy these live streams. Shout out to Vimal. Shout out to Mila. Shout out to Andy. Shout out to Milagros. Shout out to Angel. Shout out to Roxy. Shout out to Corey. Shout out to Isaac. Shout out to Karos. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Excuse me. Shout out to Megan. Shout out to Shanae. Oh, Shanae, can you write your name again? Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Hank. Shout out to Violet. Shout out to Theodora. Shout out to Elsa. Also leave a like if you're enjoying this live stream. Let's try to get to 100 likes. Shout out to Zayden. Shout out to Paisley. Shout out to Kayla. Shout out to Cindy. Thank you for subscribing. Like and subscribe. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Sia. Shout out to Mava. Shout out to Miley. Shout out to Amias. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Thank you for subscribing, Amias. Shout out to Ella. Shout out to Kevin. Shout out to these people. Capuntas. Elsa Capuntas. Wait, what was it? It was Elsa Capuntas. Elsa. There we go. I got you here. Okay, shout out to these people. On to the next page. Leave a like if you enjoy these shout outs. Let's try to get to 100 likes. Only 60 more likes to go. 59 more likes to go. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Kalsum. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Georgie. Shout out to Holly. Shout out to Sholita. Sorry, I don't know. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Kyla. Shout out to Royalty. Shout out to Alexia. Shout out to Haya. Or Haya, sorry. Leave a like if you're enjoying this live stream. Shout out to Ray. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to Zayden. Shout out to Isabel. Shout out to Anastasia. Shout out to Bao. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Clayton. Shout out to Alanis. Shout out to Cat's Eye. Shout out to May. Shout out to Kelly. Shout out to Mira. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Heather. Also leave a like if you enjoy these live streams. Shout out to Kevin. Shout out to Johan. Shout out to Diana. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Miri. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Kelly. Shout out to CoinPin. Fan. Shout out to Santi. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Lynette. Leave a like if you're enjoying these live streams. We're almost at 100 likes. Only 4 more likes to go. Shout out to Jennifer. Shout out to Deborah. Shout out to Ashlyn. Shout out to Colette. Shout out to Annabelle. Shout out to Melody. Shout out to Isla. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Haven. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Crystal. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Brinley. Shout out to Ezra. Shout out to Billy. Shout out to Lucas. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Amina. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Leave a like if you're enjoying this live stream. We're almost at 100 likes. Thank you for being here. Also like and subscribe if you like my live streams. Also check out my content, the other content I have. Shout out to Izzy. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Adrian. Shout out to Dolly. Wait, 25 more likes to go. Shout out to Claire. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Allegra. Shout out to Jane. Shout out to Liz. Shout out to Berlin. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Audrey. Shout out to Harper. Shout out to Hendrix. Adele. Shout out to Kylie. Shout out to Jessie. Shout out to Murdoch. Shout out to Arshi. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sabia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Gandhi. Shout out to Layla. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Abigail. Shout out to Zachary. Shout out to Medea. Shout out to Sapphira. Shout out to Elodie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ada. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Zoe. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Heloisa. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Simoy. Shout out to Amity. Shout out to Jade. Shout out to Aria. We're almost at 100 likes. Only 11 more likes to 100. Like and subscribe. 10 more likes. Shout out to Mallory. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Dandicus. Shout out to Zaran. Shout out to Rena. Shout out to Tanishi. Shout out to Hesa. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Sarah. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Queen. Shout out to Cece. Shout out to Edith. Shout out to Zayden. Shout out to Sabira. Shout out to Aries. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to Grace. Shout out to Mika or Micah. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Bailey. Shout out to these people. Leave a like if you're enjoying this live stream. Thank you for 100 likes. On to the next page. Thank you for being here. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Like and subscribe if you like my content, if you like the shout outs. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Jose. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Kinley. Shout out to Moshe. Shout out to Nystar. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Addison. Shout out to Hiram. Shout out to Cassie. Leave a like if you're enjoying these live streams. Shout out to Amari. Shout out to Elizabeth. Shout out to Rowan. Shout out to Benjamin. Shout out to Johan. Shout out to Tinsley. Shout out to Durga. Shout out to Amila. Shout out to Lewison. Shout out to Jaina. Shout out to Damia or Damaya, sorry. Shout out to Carvin. Shout out to Gianna. Shout out to Andre. Shout out to Tahira. Shout out to Avery. Shout out to D. Leave a like if you're enjoying this live stream. Maybe we can get to 200 likes. Shout out to Macy. Shout out to Sabrina. Shout out to Jocelyn. Shout out to NJ. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Nicole. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Lisa. Shout out to Jimena. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to Sochi. Shout out to Lova. Shout out to Poppy. Shout out to Nadhira. Oh no, I messed up. Shout out to Nadhira. Shout out to Kiara. Shout out to Gala. Shout out to Aria. Leave a like if you're enjoying this live stream. Shout out to Dre. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Ian. Shout out to Jaden. Shout out to Kailani. Shout out to Diana. Shout out to Uzma. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Like and subscribe if you like my content. Also check out the other content I do as well. I hope you like it. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Jenna. Shout out to Heidi or Heidi. Shout out to Andrea. Shout out to Alanuf. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Adion. Shout out to Ivana. Shout out to Damari. Shout out to Kai. Leave a like if you enjoy these live streams. Maybe we can get to 200 likes. Shout out to Nova. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Mendoza. Shout out to Remy. Shout out to Wyatt. Shout out to Julie. Shout out to Lisa. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Blaze. Shout out to Angel. Shout out to Cute. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to Piper. Shout out to Sam. Shout out to Moira, sorry. Shout out to Crystal. Shout out to Medina. Oh, how do you spell Medina? Medina. Leave a like if you are enjoying these live streams. Let's try to get to 200 likes. Shout out to Owen. Shout out to Kyra. Shout out to Ezra. Shout out to Taylor. Shout out to Nyla. Shout out to Carla. Shout out to Tony. Shout out to Jerry. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Maya. Like and subscribe. We're almost halfway there to 200 likes. Shout out to Kayo. 50 more likes. Shout out to Ella. Shout out to, oh, I missed it. Casey. Shout out to Sana. Shout out to Maheen. Shout out to Matt. Shout out to Amori. Shout out to Nico. Shout out to Zara. Happy birthday. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Jaylene. Shout out to Zanib. Shout out to Jaylene. I already have you. Shout out to Jaylene. Shout out to Darius. Shout out to Alice. Shout out to Emir. Shout out to Jermaine. Oops. Shout out to Timmy. Shout out to these people. Thank you for being here. On to the next page. Like and subscribe if you like my content. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Amina. Shout out to Yashnar. Shout out to Jamie. Shout out to Eliana. Shout out to Devna. Shout out to Aubrey. Happy birthday. Shout out to Najima. Shout out to April. Shout out to Gael. Shout out to Diego. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Livy. Shout out to Fahira. Like and subscribe. Shout out to Liam. Shout out to, is it Ilianis? Shout out to, oh, how do you spell? Thank you for subscribing. I'm so sorry, Kila. Sorry if I mess up your name. Shout out to Marinos. Happy birthday. Shout out to Beijing. Thank you for subscribing. Sorry if I mispronounce your names. Leave a like if you're enjoying this live stream. We're almost at 200 likes, only about 31 more to go. Shout out to Maha. Shout out to Ariel. Shout out to Amira. Shout out to Mackenzie. Shout out to Ezra. Shout out to Caitlin. Shout out to Delaney. Shout out to Tanya. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Gianna. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying these kind of live streams. Check out my content. Shout out to Caleb. Shout out to Jude. Shout out to Wendy. Shout out to Yaisha. Shout out to Millie. Shout out to Kaylin. Shout out to Abo. Shout out to Virginia. Write your name down if you want me to shout you out. We're almost at 200 likes. Shout out to Blake. Shout out to Naomi. Shout out to Ellis. Shout out to Genesis. Shout out to Brian. Shout out to Alessia. Shout out to Harper. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Gavin. We're almost at 200 likes. Shout out to Lorelei. Or Lorelei, sorry. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Like and subscribe if you like my content. Shout out to Lincoln. Shout out to Audrina. Shout out to Brooks. Shout out to Jax. Shout out to Priya. Shout out to Annabelle. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Rasselbeck. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. We're almost at 200 likes. Only 11 more likes. Thank you so much for being here. More likes. Shout out to Jamir. Thank you for subscribing. Or Jamir, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Sonia or Sanaya, sorry. Shout out to Elva. Shout out to John Mel. Shout out to Steven. One more like. Shout out to Tommy. We're almost at 200 likes. Shout out to Katie. Thank you for subscribing. Yay, we're at 200 likes. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Kalia. Shout out to Yessa. Shout out to Jamalith. Shout out to Cynthia. Shout out to Liam. Like and subscribe if you like my shout outs. Shout out to Lupe. Shout out to Kaden. Shout out to Shrek. Shout out to Yuri. Shout out to OG. Happy birthday. Shout out to Phoenix. Oopsie. Shout out to Julia. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Kaimani. Shout out to Celine. Shout out to Gerald. Shout out to Hunter. Shout out to Mumtaz. Shout out to Ifra. Shout out to Arroyo. Shout out to Areli. Shout out to Evie. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Maheen or Majin. Shout out to Fayo. Shout out to Lorax. Shout out to Georgia. Happy birthday. Shout out to Maysara. Shout out to Vaughn. Shout out to Fiona. Shout out to Rain. Shout out to Dea or Dia. Shout out to Amy. Happy birthday. Shout out to Mateo. Shout out to Lorenzo. Shout out to Ali or Ali. Shout out to Arvi. Shout out to Farhana. Give it a like if you're enjoying this live stream. Shout out to John. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Nyla. Happy birthday. Shout out to Samir. Shout out to Naya. Shout out to Kristen. Shout out to Thweba. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying this live stream. Maybe we can get to 300 likes. Thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. Shout out to Rayleigh or Riley. Shout out to Naomi. Shout out to Andrea. Shout out to Giselle. Shout out to Sailor. Shout out to Jackson. Shout out to oh, I missed it. Shout out to Nathaniel. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Mitchie. Shout out to Dana or Donna, sorry. Shout out to Baby and then Girl. Shout out to Bob. Shout out to Yumo. Leave a like if you like the shout outs. Shout out to Liana. Shout out to Marcella. Shout out to Hunter. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Preseus. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Leave a like if you're enjoying this live stream. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Brielle. Shout out to James. Shout out to Darius. Shout out to Myrrh. Shout out to Haven. Shout out to Caesar. Shout out to Drake. Shout out to Emerson. Leave a like if you like these shout outs. Shout out to Greg. Shout out to Iris. Shout out to Sana. Shout out to Andrew. Shout out to Tali. Shout out to Hazel. Shout out to Esme. Shout out to Zayden. Shout out to Junie. Shout out to Howard. Leave a like if you're enjoying this live stream. Shout out to William. Shout out to Fur. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to DJ. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Yasmin. Shout out to Aubrey. Leave a like if you're enjoying this live stream. Let's try to get to 300 likes. Shout out to Megan. Shout out to Ovalia. Shout out to Julia. Shout out to Madeline. Shout out to Alessandra. Shout out to Paige. Shout out to Lila. Shout out to Danny. Like and subscribe if you like the shout outs. Also check out my other content. On to the next page. Let's try to get to 300 likes. We're halfway there. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Casey. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Paul. Shout out to Elizabeth. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Gabriella. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Amaya. Shout out to Donancy. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Shivanshi. Shout out to Carter. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Candace. Shout out to Nadila. Shout out to Yumi. Shout out to Void. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Royal. Shout out to Devyani. Shout out to Eduardo. Shout out to Alicia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Alani. Shout out to Iris. Shout out to Looney. Shout out to Savi. Shout out to Lisette. Oops. Shout out to Oliver. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Nancy. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Ashley. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Koi. Shout out to Kayleen. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Clarissa. Shout out to Ares. Leave a like if you're enjoying this live stream. Shout out to Preston. Happy birthday. Shout out to Alice. Shout out to Marcelli. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Cynthia. Shout out to Ginny. Shout out to Parker. Shout out to Lincoln. Happy birthday. Shout out to Rose. Shout out to Jadens. Shout out to April. Leave a like if you're enjoying this live stream. We're almost at 300 likes. Shout out to Keisha. Shout out to Suhana. Shout out to Shesky. Shout out to Tyler. Shout out to Jaylee. Shout out to Wyatt. Shout out to Annalyn. Annalyn. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Katie. Leave a like if you are enjoying this live stream. We're almost at 300 likes. On to the next page. Thank you so much for being here. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Tara. Shout out to Claire. Shout out to Cody. Shout out to Leo. Shout out to Cassia. Or Kasaya, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Jonah. Shout out to Angel. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. We're almost at 300 likes. Shout out to Jayla. Shout out to Rama. Shout out to Gianna. Shout out to Anusha. Shout out to Miguel. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Marcel. Like and subscribe if you like my content. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Talia. Shout out to Lisa. Shout out to Maddie. We're at 29 likes, only 29 likes until 300. Shout out to Kayarn. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Vidka. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Bertha. Shout out to Gara. Or Gara. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Isabella. Shout out to Sanae. Oh no, shout out to Snee. Shout out to King. Shout out to Anusha. Shout out to Odie. Shout out to Charlie. We're almost at 300 likes. Give it a thumbs up. Shout out to Jamie. We're almost at 300. Shout out to Adrina. Shout out to Christian. Shout out to Nezuko. Shout out to Nara. We're almost at 300. I hope we can get to 300 likes. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Francis. Shout out to Dee or Dea. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Wood. Shout out to Nitty and Nisa, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Scarlett. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Janielle. Shout out to Larry. Shout out to Natalia. Shout out to Avneet. Shout out to Bella. We're almost at 300 likes, only 20 more likes. Shout out to Piranha. Shout out to Bella, already have it. Achoo! Sorry. Shout out to Sia. Only 18 more likes. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying these shout outs. On to the next page. Thank you so much for being here. Like and subscribe. Your support means the world to me. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking your time to be here. Shout out to Talia. Shout out to Elena or Alana. Sorry. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry. Took longer than I expected. Yes, I'm back, as promised. Shout out to Ramin. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to Melina. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to Annabella. Shout out to Vanessa. Shout out to Stealth. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Anson. We're almost at 300 likes. Shout out to Tasia or Tasia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Zaya. Zaya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ima. Only 6 more likes. Shout out to Darcy. Shout out to Yama. Shout out to Vicky. Three more likes. We're almost there. Shout out to Charlene. Shout out to Joey. Shout out to Brianna. Shout out to Josh. Shout out to Melissa. Yay, we're at 300 likes. Thank you so much. Shout out to Danielle. Shout out to Meso. Shout out to Jakari. Shout out to Mariella. Shout out to Prince. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Pasha. Shout out to Andy. Shout out to Zara. Shout out to Piper. Shout out to Steven. Shout out to Navisha. Like and subscribe if you like my content. Shout out to Gracie. Shout out to Saladin. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Aswin. Shout out to Heather. Shout out to Pam. Shout out to Axelito. Shout out to Odabek. Shout out to Mehirma. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Yair. Shout out to Nisrina. Shout out to Hope. Shout out to Chelsea. Shout out to Jenny. Shout out to Jaden. Shout out to Kevin. Shout out to Leo. Shout out to these people, and shout out to everyone I wrote. I will do this again tomorrow, okay? So like and subscribe to my channel so you know when I do live streams. Have a great day or have a great night. I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for being here. Take care. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.